Hello, and welcome to another dreary day in upstate New York. For my Revolutionary Era public history location, I chose the Saratoga National Historical Park in Stillwater, New York, which were the sites of the battles of Saratoga in 1777. One of the main reasons that I chose this is location, location, location. It's right down the road. I mean, I could literally hop in my car and be in Stillwater in 5 minutes. The Saratoga campaign was one of the most important events in the American Revolution. British General John Burgoyne led an army south from Canada as part of a plan to gain control of the Hudson River Valley and isolate New England from the other colonies. American forces stopped Burgoyne at Saratoga in two major battles at Freeman's Farm on September 19th and Bemis Heights on October 7th. Burgoyne eventually surrendered his army on October 17th, 1777. The battle was considered one of the turning points of the American Revolution. The victory demonstrated that the Continental forces could defeat a major British army and encourage France to openly support the United States. French military and financial assistance became essential to eventual American victory, which is true because if it wasn't for Saratoga, the French wouldn't have entered the revolution. We wouldn't have had much of a chance against the British, which had a larger, more well-equipped army. The battlefield was not immediately preserved as a national park. Organized preservation efforts eventually led New York State to acquire important portions of the battlefield and became a state historical site in 1927. The National Park Service began administering it in 1948. It continued, and the preservation continues through archaeological research, landscape restoration, and the acquisition of additional historic properties. There are two ways of interpreting Saratoga's importance. The first is the traditional military and diplomatic interpretation. Again, if we hadn't won Saratoga, if we hadn't won Saratoga, we would have the French wouldn't have come in on our side. We wouldn't have had the military support, and we wouldn't have won the revolution. The second interpretation focuses on the people who experienced the revolution. Saratoga was not simply Americans fighting British soldiers, because loyalists were also fighting with the British. Native Americans also participated in the campaign, and even African Americans participated in the campaign. And there was also a civilian camp. Soldiers' wives. Some soldiers' wives would actually follow behind the army and perform, cook and clean, do all the stuff that a regular soldier would have to do themselves. But yeah, women and other civilians, blacksmiths and stuff like that, they followed behind the army because it was because it was a way for them to make money. As a future history teacher, which I plan to be, I think Saratoga would be would make an excellent field trip. Totally agree. I totally agree. It would make an excellent field trip. I mean, how can you not? I mean, if you could actually experience the revolution, I think New York State is probably the best place to experience it, to be honest. A lot of historical sites here in New York, Ticonderoga, Fort William Henry. You also have Old Stone Fort, where I used to live in Schoharie, New York. I mean, there are a lot of historical sites in New York, and Saratoga is just one of the many connected to the revolution. I mean, it would allow the students to connect to the geography, the evidence, the memory, and the human experience. It really would. So, thank you and goodbye.